Chioma, a young Nigerian teenage girl, lived with the mother in a small one-room apartment. Since losing her father a few years ago, the mother has been the one responsible for Chioma's schooling. The mom does some small business frying and selling akara in a shop she rented around the corner. She was not the literate type and had sworn that her children must not suffer the same fate. Most of the time, she feels bad of not being able to read and write properly like other women do. As a result, whatever profit she makes from her small business is put aside, particularly for rent and school fees. In order to achieve these targets, she eats very little and did not get involved in buying the very expensive indulgences of her fellow women. She would rather drink gari with groundnuts for the evening and go to sleep to enable her put aside monies for Chioma's school fees and the house rent. She does not like missing the house rent. The landlord is a loud-mouthed person whose voice is as loud as a loudspeaker itself. She had seen many of her co-tenants humiliated by the landlord, after which some good-for-nothing co-tenants have used the fallout of the altercation as an object of skit making. In fact, she hates ridicules. It was as a result of this that she had managed to put 150k together and give it to her daughter, Chioma, hoping that she understands her sacrifices. She did not for once think that Chioma could be this naive as to gamble away her future. But Chioma was not thinking along that line. She had other plans of her own. She was in love with a guy called Tobi. Tobi works in a small factory within town. His salary was nothing to write home about. In spite of that, he remained the very flamboyant type. He was the type that wants to put on the best shoes around town. His shirts were usually starched and well ironed. He likes putting on very expensive necklaces, the type that will make the bank account of people like him cry out for mercy. His handphones were the very special classy ones, something he spends time and efforts picking out of the local Tokumbo market. In that environment, the second-hand market is referred to as the Tokumbo market. If you do not have enough money to buy the new and expensive phones, the Tokumbo market is the next best place to go. And Tobi knew where the best Tokumbo markets in town are located. For some time now, he had been wanting to buy one of the latest phones in the Tokumbo market. But his meager salary would not just accommodate the price of 300k needed to buy the phone. So when he was told of his scheme that will fetch him 500k within 1 month if you invest just 150k now, his eyes became as excited as a monkey that was offered a finger of ripe banana. He then threw all caution away and began to do a mental calculation as to how he would get the 150k needed for the initial investment. It was like God was on his side when Chioma came along with some money which she wants to use to pay her school fees. He has sweet-talked Chioma into seeing the benefit of the scheme. He told her that once they are paid the initial 500k, she will pay her fees with 150k, and the balance of 350k will be split equally between them as equal partners in the business. He never told Chioma about the phone he had been eyeing all this while. Neither did he tell her about his plan to abscond as soon as he laid hands on the 500k. Chioma, in her naivety and love for Tobi, bought the whole story hook, line, and sinker. He never knew that she was dealing with Lucifer himself. He never knew that she had just sold the future of her education to a non-entity. Tobi thought he was wise when he sweet-talked Chioma into his devilish scheme. He thought he was wise when he told her that they were going to split the 350k between the two of them on equal basis. He thought he was wise when he failed to disclose his real intentions to that innocent girl whose future education appears to have been ruined by a sweet-sounding lover boy. Little did he realize that he was going to learn the full meaning of the phrase, "Karma is a boomerang." When he got to the office of the supposed investors, he met a number of other people who were about to receive their first baptism in the University of Hard Knocks. He met an office that was almost glittering with the proverbial gold. It was an office located in the highbrow area of town. Nobody would have thought that some dubious persons would choose such a highbrow location to perpetrate fraud of any sort. Apart from being located in some of the best parts of town, the interior carries the attribute of some of the very successful businesses in town. Beginning from the footmats at the entrance of the office to the carpet that was laid in the inner office, it all tells about somebody who really had taste. The chairs, tables, TV sets, air conditioners, etc. were just enough to make an inquisitive mind lose focus. Then there were posters which were shouting at investors and telling the very gullible to accept a 300% return on their investment within just 1 month. Tobi, like other persons around, did not hesitate to hand in their hard-earned monies to some fraudsters in corporate wares. It was almost 5 weeks since Tobi made the unfortunate investment. He, like other investors, waited. There was this issue with their system which they were trying to sort, or so they were made to understand. It got into the 6th week. People were still trooping in to make investments. Surprisingly, no one bothered to find out why the ones that were due were not being paid back. They were probably carried away more by greed than by the aesthetics in the office. All this while, Chioma had been sent out of school. She had now been transferred from her regular school to the one in Tobi's compound. Each day, for her mother not to become suspicious, Chioma will wake up at the normal time, get dressed, and go to attend her school at Tobi's place. It was that bad. Meanwhile, Tobi kept waiting and promising her to wait. The money will soon come. It eventually became a mantra to him. Each day, Tobi will go to the office. It was business as usual. People trooping in to hand over monies. None was coming out with money. But the operatives were very good salesmen. They appear to have been well tutored in their acts. After talking to anxious investors, they will go home hoping that the money was on the way. So Tobi kept promising Chioma and reassuring her. That was week 6, and money was still on the way? What nonsense. One morning, after waiting for good 6 weeks, Tobi decided to go and see a higher authority. He was tired of waiting endlessly. He had been saddled with the additional responsibility of feeding Chioma. His plans were going haywire. By now, he thought he would have either bought his much coveted phone or gone somewhere in the hinterlands to enjoy himself with his booty. He told himself that he was certainly going to get his money today. At least, if the 500k was not forthcoming, then they must be able to release something. It is not going to be business as usual today. While all these thoughts were going on in his mind, he did not know when the bus took him beyond the bus stop where he would have dropped. He eventually found himself 2 bus stops away and had to do the long trek backwards. From all indications, he was beginning to make some payment for his sins. He was now getting very close to the office and sighted something that appears like a people protesting few distance in front. He began to wonder why people should be protesting in a serene environment like this one. Little did it occur to him that the protest was a fallout of his reason for coming here in the first instance. When he got there, he saw men and women talking at the top of their voices, some weeping and unconsolable on the bare floor. He looked at the entrance of the once glamorous office. The very attractive carpets were no longer there. He pinched himself to ensure that he was not having some bouts of malaria fever. You know, malaria, especially the type that comes with high fever, has a way of making the patient dream dreams. It is such that a very broke man may just see himself flying in a private jet which he owns personally. What more, they may have booked a special reservation for him in a five-star hotel for 2 weeks at a go. I think that is what the people call acute malaria. He took the whole scenario into his senses in one fell swoop and observed that the door to the office had been smashed open. He took a further look and observed that there was virtually nothing in the office. The office was bare. Whoever did this job did a very good job. All the very expensive items that were used to decorate the office have all been carefully removed overnight. Tobi could not believe his eyes and started feeling himself losing consciousness. He got hold of himself and went to sit down somewhere. He thought about Chioma and her school fees. He thought about his plans. Nothing seems to make any sense anymore. He just does not know how he was going to handle the whole thing. He later picked himself up and did not ask anyone anything before he knew that he had been scammed. He began to stagger home. He did not know what to tell Chioma. He, however, knew that by the time he got home, she would have gone. At least that would give him time to plan his actions going forward. One morning, Chioma got to school. A number of students were hanging outside the school gate. They were all standing outside the closed gates and looking like refugees that have just arrived at an asylum facility waiting to be processed. A stern-looking teacher was standing there, waiting at the other end of the gate. As Chioma approached, he backed out. "Receipt, please." All the attention was now focused on Chioma. She was completely embarrassed by her situation. She then began to blame herself for what is now happening to her. Like they would say, it is the person who fell down that told the world to see what she was carrying on their head. If she hadn't fallen for Tobi's antics, by now she would not be here, mocked by some good-for-nothing individuals. She was already beginning to feel others making fun of her situation. As she stood there, many thoughts began to go through her mind. She remembered her mother. She remembered how she had been going through the privations so as to ensure her school fees were paid. Most nights she will come from her akara business and will be looking tired and run down. She will come home with money enough to buy some of the best dishes in the nearby Uncle John's eatery. But she will dare not do that. Instead, she will send her to buy garri and groundnuts only. Many other persons who like drinking garri will want to add sugar to the dish for better taste. But not so with her mother, all in an attempt to reduce costs. She thought of Tobi. This was a guy she loves so much. She was ready to do anything within her powers to ensure he remains his own. Hence, she did not hesitate to give out the 150k which Tobi requested for without thinking twice. She trusted Tobi a lot and did not believe things will turn out this bad. She was there thinking and still believing that the money will come so that this self-created nightmare will be over. The most disturbing aspect is that her exams are around the corner. Her mom will be severely heartbroken if she fails to take the exams. It will not be because of the fault of her mom, but because one naive child could just not think properly. How will her mom feel if she gets to hear that she had squandered the school fees, which she gave so much to put together? How will she feel if she hears that Chioma had not been going to school? Knowing her mom so well, she may just disown her and probably throw her out. The mom will not be at fault if she decides to take a stern action. After all, she had starved herself to ensure Chioma's school fees had been paid. She sat there thinking and thinking, but nothing made any sense anymore. She sat there for what seems like almost eternity. When it became clear that the authorities were not going to allow them into the school compound today, the students standing outside began to leave one after another. She was jolted out of her daydream by the horn of a car that was trying to gain entry into the school premises. That was when she realized that she was the only one there, just sitting like a child who has no home. She immediately stood up and left for home. Then came exam day. There still was no money to pay the fees. Chioma decided to try one more time to see if she can gain entry into the school premises. Still no way. That was when it finally dawned on her that she had sold her future. She thought of the exams. Her mates will all be facing their papers now and writing the exams. She imagined her empty space. The question papers will be placed on the table, but her seat will be empty. What will other students say about her? What if her mother finds out about all this drama? It is not a question of if, but when. She stood there for a while looking like a child who had lost his way home. She turned around and left. She had not seen Tobi for the past 2 days, so she decided to check on him. When she got there, he met him sitting in front of his apartment, looking lost and staring into space, like somebody who had just been dispossessed of his prized possession. Though that is exactly what he was, even though he was yet to tell Chioma the whole story. He was in such a trance that he did not notice Chioma's approach. He was thrown out of his daydream when Chioma mentioned his name. He then quickly stood up and greeted her. "How are you doing there?" "I am not good at all," Chioma responded in a very flat tone. "Exams have started though." And Chioma was not on her seat, she added. "Presently, I am more concerned about my mom. I do not know how she's going to take it." Tobi has still not told her about what he saw in the office of the investment company. He would prefer not to tell her. He didn't know how she was going to take it. But then he thought otherwise. He was tired of hiding the facts. Sooner or later, she got to hear. So let the heavens fall right now. So he told her how he went there, what he saw, and what he was told. The summary of it all was that the whole thing was a scam. All along, Chioma had thought along this line and was ready for it. She was not going to allow the revelation cause more pain to her. She just sat on the small bed that was so neatly arranged, you would think that nobody had slept on it for a long time. Obviously, Tobi had not laid on the bed since the news broke out. He thought Chioma was going to raise hell when he told her about the situation of things. Chioma herself was not that bothered. She just sat there thinking of how her mom will take the whole thing. Results have now been released. Chioma was not forthcoming with hers, so her mother began to ask questions. "Chioma, why are your results taking this long to come? What exactly is going on? I hope all is well, oh. I hope you know how much I struggle to pay your school fees. I hope you know how I deprive myself of the various goodies of life so as to ensure you go to school. Chioma, no fall my hand, though." That was when Chioma broke down and told her mother the whole truth. She knelt down and began to sob. Mommy, I am sorry. I messed up full time. I gave my school fees to Tobi for a business deal that would have fetched him 500k. The 500k was supposed to be paid to him in 4 weeks. Tobi sold me the idea. He told me that it was a sure bet. He told me that such deals don't fail and that he will ensure that it does not fail. I did everything to ensure I got the money back, but there was just no way. I had since been sent out of school, but I was afraid and did not tell you. Mommy, I am sorry. I was blinded by greed. He told me that the 150k will turn into 500k in 4 weeks. So I quickly bought into the idea without giving it a single thought. I never knew what came over me, Mommy. I am sorry. She sobbed over and over again. But the mother was too surprised to speak. She had been nursing this BP issue and had been advised to be calm about upsetting issues. She wanted to burst out, but remembered what the doctors told her. On no account should you be unusually excited. You must ensure you control your emotions. Otherwise, when triggered by anger or high excitement, the situation could spiral out of control. She kept telling herself, "Calm down, Mama Chioma, calm down." She began to behave as if she did not hear what Chioma just told her, all in an attempt to calm down. She then remembered her husband and wished he was around to help handle this situation. She thought of what to do, but nothing just made sense. She just stood there, staring into space. Eventually, she left the room, all in an attempt to calm her frayed nerves, which were about breaking. She wants to use the break to make a better decision. 2 days later, Chioma's mom called her and said, "Let us go visit Tobi. I want to get his own version of the story. I hope you are not telling lies." I just hope so. Chioma's mom knew Tobi. She had once been in the same women's association with Tobi's mom. She was aware of the relationship between them. She really did not approve of the relationship because she knew Tobi was very flamboyant and lazy, always talking big and wanting to put on some of the best clothes in town. Unfortunately, he could not hold on to any job for as long as 6 months. The place he is now working was found for him just 4 months ago, and he had never been able to prove himself. Chioma's mom had on several occasions told her that she does not like that boy. She told Chioma that she is still in school and should face her studies instead. But it all fell on deaf ears. These are some of the fallouts of one not listening to their parents, the mom said quietly. So off they went to Tobi's place. When they got there, the apartment was empty. The door was half open. He seemed to have left in a hurry, as the house was littered with his things all over the place. The apartment was like a protest scene. Books and other personal belongings were strewn all over the place. Tobi had disappeared. Chioma asked about him from a few of his neighbors who were there pretending to be washing their clothes. But in reality, they just wanted to have some news item that they could later gossip with. They could not give any reasonable response. They only said they saw him leaving the house very early in the morning with his handbag. Obviously, Tobi had fled. "You have sold your future. Chioma, you have sold your future because of greed," said the mommy. When they got home, the mom calmly began to put Chioma's belongings into a handbag. She had probably bought the handbag specifically for this purpose, as the bag was new in the house. When Chioma saw what was happening, she began to sob and weep. "Mommy, where do you want me to go? Mommy, I am sorry. I made a mistake. I am sorry. But all those pleadings fell on deaf ears. She packed her things, placed them outside. She came back, let Chioma out, closed and locked the door. Finally, she said, I don't tire. I no wan die early. Chioma saw her life collapsing in a flash. She stood out there thinking of what to do next. Neighbors were beginning to gather, one after the other. They did not hear of any commotion because of the very quiet way Chioma's mom had handled the whole situation. But one thing led to another, and people were beginning to nose around. In that type of environment, people usually do not like to mind their own business. They will surely look for one thing or the other that they must use as an object of gossip that evening. If that was what they were waiting for, they must have failed because they only saw Chioma walking away, dejected though, with her bag hung on her shoulder. This one will not make a good storyline. They must therefore look for another object of discussion against this night. Chioma thought of where to go, but none immediately came to mind. But she had an Aunty Betty who lives on the other side of town. Aunty B, as they usually call her, was a very beautiful and flashy woman. At the age of 40, she was not yet married. She gave the impression that she likes her freedom and would not like to be tied down by any man. She is the typical Lagos girl and frequently attends parties. The fact is, she's either attending one party or holding one. That was the situation in which Chioma found herself. Chioma was not comfortable with the place, but she really had no choice. While she was there, she observed that the type of company that Aunty B keeps were questionable. But she had no right to question who Aunty B calls her friend. She must learn to live with the situation, no matter how repulsive. For the first time in Chioma's life, fear gripped her. Chioma's story is a warning to those who would not listen. But the choice you make in the hiding will one day come into the open to haunt you. Though elders may have advised you in the dark recesses of the day and you fail to heed their call, just remember that what the elderly sees while sitting may not be seen by a child perched even at the very top of a tree. What do you advise Chioma to do now? Please share your thoughts in the comment section of this video. Thank you for listening. Please share, comment, and give it a like. Bye.